Good morning. Welcome to the sanctuary and welcome to our folks online on YouTube Live. You are at the Sunday service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of St. Petersburg. We are currently on the unceded ancestral lands of the Tocobaga and Seminole Native Americans.
Thank you so much. My name is Ben Atherton Zeman. I'm the minister here. My pronouns are he and him, and we are on the edge of audio feedback, but I'm also the sound engineer, and it's behind me. So if we hear feedback, I'm going to step away and undo the feedback. We have an amazing worship service for you because we have two guest speakers. That's Reverend Bob Murphy down there. Reverend Bob, hello. Thank you for being our guest speaker. Todd Wellman coordinated today's music and is singing the anthem because we don't have the flute player. But I'm excited to be, Tim Berneman is on the piano, and that was Allison Longkey, who you heard, who is the head of our worship team.
Hi, so thank you, Ben, and good morning.
Morning.
If you want a church where people from all stages of life are welcome and loved, and people from different beliefs and backgrounds, if you want a church that accepts all of you, you may have found your church home.
We have two announcements today. I know many of you are feeling anxious following yesterday's news. That's because you've talked to me and you said, I'm feeling anxious. I am too. Gun violence, political violence, you're not alone. This is a time to use your church community, to use us. Please lean on one another. Please lean on me. I'd be happy to talk with any of you about this or anything else.
Ben will be doing a coffee with the minister in the library after our service during coffee hour today. Hopefully Lisa and Reverend Bob can join him.
I didn't tell you that in advance, Bob, but you're welcome to join us in the library afterwards. People want to join you. And so is Lisa. Now, as Unitarian Universalists, we are people of diverse beliefs, but we do share that common faith that every being is worthy of love, that what we do in this world matters, and that we are connected to one another and to the earth. So whoever you are and wherever you are in your journey, you are welcome here.
We want to give a special welcome to any newcomers. If you are new to UU St. Pete, or even relatively new, can you give us a wave, please? Look at all those hands. So now that we know who you are, if you want to introduce yourself, Ben's going to walk around with a microphone. You're under no obligation to do so if you don't want to, but let us know who you are if you'd like.
While you're thinking of whether you want to raise your hand or not, I didn't say that this is New Member Sunday, so you'll be meeting people who are new members to our church.
Hi, I'm Kathy. I'm from Gulf Park.
Welcome. Welcome.
Good morning. My name's Sam. I'm from Philadelphia, and I recently moved to St. Pete.
Hi, I'm Donna. I'm Sam's mom. I'm a member of the First Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Hunterdon County in New Jersey. Here to visit the kid.
Welcome. Good to have you. Who?
Mike, my wife and I were watching the online services all throughout COVID, and they're gone for the weekend, so it gives me the opportunity to come here and scope it out so that we can start coming in person.
Anybody else?
Oh, wait.
I'm Trista. This is my husband, Justin. And our son, Harris. We are members, we've lived in St. Pete quite a while. We're members at Allendale United Methodist Church, and we hear a lot about the UU, so we thought we would check it out.
Thank you. I'm a big fan of Allendale.
All right. Thank you all for sharing. Please silence your cell phones at this time. Regarding masks, if you'd like one, they are available at either entrance. So UU does welcome children and their unique energy to be with us for the start of services until the children head to their religious education classes. We are not doing a time for all ages today because we have a jam-packed service. So when we get to the time for all ages piece, we're going to ask for all the kids to gather at the front.
We'll have a moment of something. I think you're going to get to meet Lisa Pineda for a second.
All right.
And
So at this time in our service, this is where we greet our neighbors. Please ask for consent before giving hugs or shaking hands. And if there's someone here that enriches your life, that makes your life better just by being here, please let them know.
thank you, Reverend Bob, for bringing the shell for us to, we usually have a chime. Please rise as you're willing and able for our first hymn. It's 1066 in the teal hymnal, O Brother's Son. We're going to replace all brother and sister words with the word sibling. You'll catch on.
Yeah, thank you. We haven't sung this one, and as you know, I'm one of the three, you may know, I'm one of the three volunteer music directors this summer, as our music director is up north into the fall. And a second note on this song, and I know some great UUs know how to do this. Near the end of the song, in one of the verses, the word God does appear a couple times, but a lot of you know how to sing that lowercase, and a lot of you know how to sing that uppercase. So feel free to do the one that you're most comfortable with. But it's very helpful to just have you keep singing rather than like, oh, you know, drop out on the word. Tim, take us away. Oh, sibling son, you bring us light, all shining round in fiery might. Oh, sibling moon, you heal and bless, your beauty shines in tenderness. Oh, sibling wind, you sweep the hills, your mighty breath both freshens and fills. Oh, sibling water, you cleanse and flow through rivers and streams in ice and snow. Oh, sibling fire, you warm our night with all your dancing colored light. Oh, sibling earth, you feed all things, all birds, all creatures, all scales and wings. Oh, sibling death, you meet us here and take us to our God so near. O God of life, we give you praise for all your creatures, for all your ways.
Please remain standing for the lighting of our chalice as Joanne Kellner lights the chalice. I invite you to say our covenant out loud. Now, the words are in the order of service online and YouTube Live. They're in the text chat. Feel free to follow along with the two hand movements, hand to heart, and then hands reaching out. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. You may be seated, and children, you are welcome to come up for a very brief time for all ages. Lisa, are you here, Lisa? Lisa Pineda? Hey.
Would any other children like to come?
Or are you gonna? It's all good. Kaylor. Hey, Alex. Thanks. Good to see you. One of you just getting back. One of you here last week, and you too. Good to see you both. I just wanted to introduce you to my friend, Lisa Pineda. Do you know what indigenous means? Do you know what that word means? Do you know what native means? Yeah, do you know what is that? What does that mean? Don't know? We don't have to. Anyway, so my ancestors, I have white skin, and my ancestors came from Ireland and came from Germany. Lisa's ancestors came from the Caribbean, and Lisa is part of a nation called the Taino Nation. And I just wanted to introduce you to Lisa. Do you want to say anything?
I have a little story. Yes, so I had some tech issues, so I wasn't sure I could do this. So let me put my glasses on, because this is new to me. I can't really see well without glasses now. So I'm going to teach you a little Taino first. Would you like to learn a little bit of another language? Yeah? Okay, so Tai. Can you repeat after me? Say Tai. Tai. No. Tai means good. No means man. So Taino means good man or good people. So Taino means good people. So it actually is a little bit of a misnomer that we call Taino Nation now, but it was actually written down as Taino, but we were actually Arawakan. So it was a very large nation. The Taino were a part of the nation. So I'm Taino from what is now the Dominican Republic in Haiti. But I was going to tell you about would you like to learn about a queen? The queen? So that's what we call it in English, is a queen. She was a cacique, which is a chief. So a lot of times the word chief is considered masculine, but she was a female chief. So her name was Ana Kaona. Can you say Ana? Kaona. So Ana means gold or golden, and Kaona means flower, which is why I'm wearing these. What are these called? Sunflowers, that's right. So she was named after sunflowers, so golden flowers. So that was actually a Native American flower. A lot of people don't realize that. That is actually a Native American flower that you can grow in honor of Ana Kaona. So I'm here today as my ancestress representing Ana Kaona, who lost her life after the encounter with Columbus. So I will ask everybody, including the adults, if I said 1492, what's the rest of it? Everyone knows that, but who did he meet when he sailed and he came across the ocean? So the first people that he encountered, he called Indians because he thought he had reached India. But did he reach India? Do we live in India? No. He reached what was the Caribbean. So he encountered the people that he called Indians, which had bronze skin, similar to mine. They were what was called the Taino. And one of the people on the big island, which was called Quisqueya, which in Mayan means motherland, and then in Taino, it's Haiti, which means high place. So it has some of the highest mountains in all of the islands. It has 10,000-foot peaks. So Ana Kaona was the queen that tried to negotiate with Columbus. So I was going to read you a small part of this. It's about women leaders. Ana Kaona was a Taina a Taino cacique, female cacique or chief, religious expert, poet, and composer of Zaragua in what is now Haiti. Born into a family of caciques, she succeeded her brother Bohochio as a ruler of Zaragua after his death in 1500. Although she was famous for her poetry, songs, oral histories, and traditional dances, little remains of her work. In 1503, Spanish Governor Nicolas Ovando suspected an insurrection was brewing among the Taino chiefs, including Anacaona, that led to her death. Anacaona is remembered in contemporary art and literature across the Caribbean. A statue commemorating her is this is in French, Lagan, the thing is Leogan, Haiti, Santo Domingo's Torre Anacaona 27. Once the tallest building in the Caribbean is named after her. The song Anacaona, lead vocals by Cheo Feliciano, tells her story. So you can actually look up that song, Anacaona, and you can listen to that and learn a little bit more about the female queen of the Caribbean. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Yes, thank you. And do we have an image on the? It didn't. There's no image. It won't connect. Well, let us sing our children out to their classes. And thank you again, Lisa. Go now in peace. Go now.
May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. We now come to the time in our worship service for joy, sorrows, and concerns. If you'd like to submit a joy, sorrow, or concern but haven't yet, you can fill out a card in the back of the pew and bring it to Ben or myself, or give it to an usher to bring forward. Please remember, this time is not for announcements, but for sharing what is on your heart. For those of you watching in the live stream, please type your joys and concerns into the text box.
So right now, you're gonna do the fantastic. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
So right now, Jan Roeder will place a stone in the water for each one that was submitted this week. The ripples emanating from the stones remind us that the impact of our lives can ripple throughout our community.
Thank you, Jan. First, a stone of joy from Chris Chavi. Ella Grace turns 2 tomorrow, but unfortunately she's not feeling well, so they are watching from home. Happy birthday, Ella.
A stone of joy from Beth Strombo for Disability Awareness Month.
And then also a stone of sorrow from me, because this world, our community, and our church still has so much work to do to make ourselves a fully accessible space.
I have a stone of joy from Tim Berneman. I returned yesterday from the Gala Festival in Minneapolis. There were 7,000 singers from 135 choruses, LGBTQ. People came from all around the country and the world to sing and share joy, love, and togetherness. This beautiful event gives me much hope for our future.
And some of you met Kevin last week, a member of the Marine Corps who attended, and he has a stone of joy. Kevin says, I'll be leaving the active duty Marine Corps on September 30th this year and transition to the reserves after 6 years. Kevin says, I'm anxious and nervous about these next steps and reintegrating into the civilian worlds. I will hopefully be attending Indiana State Police Academy in February and continue to serve, but this time be closer to family, friends, and community. I'm nervous about ensuring my husband gets the medical care he needs when we move to Indiana. There's really a lot of things happening in my life, tons of moving and changing parts. This was only the tip of the iceberg, but I digress. Glad to be here. And Kevin says, I used to attend the All Souls UU on 50th Street, or 56th Street in Indianapolis. Blessings, Kevin, wherever you are.
All right. And then we have a stone of joy from Millie Jones. I have returned from a fun 80th birthday celebration with my daughter Joanna. We spent 2 weeks in the South Pacific at resorts and on a lovely cruise.
That's all I have. Anything else? Okay, so let's keep in mind and hold close to our hearts. Kevin, the Chavi family, all disabled people within our congregation and without, all those unknown and known to us who are facing challenges, who are facing health concerns. Please join us now for our responsive reading that was written by John Motter.
May our hearts not become calloused by the never-ending incidences of oppression and hatred that so many face each day. Rather, may we keep our hearts open to the positive efforts of so many people causing good trouble in the world.
May we have the strength to demand and gain the right for all people to have a safe place to sleep, health care to keep them strong, and the knowledge that their lives matter.
The struggle is taking longer than it should, but we will get there if we continue to strive for basic human rights. May all of us find a comforting and compassionate presence in the warmth and fellowship of community. We will place the final stone for those joys and sorrows that remain in our hearts, perhaps too tender to be spoken out loud. The mystery is that we are all connected even when we feel apart. Let us rejoice in our beloved community that makes of the many one. Now let's take a minute of silence together.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the air, giving life the shape of justice. Hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Bob Murphy, and I'm a Unitarian Universalist minister. Retired, well, sort of. I may be able to explain that in a few minutes. But today I'm here partly to introduce Lisa Pineda, who has already been introduced, who is the main speaker today. And I'm also here to say a few words about Unitarian Universalists and climate change, which is a big, complicated topic, and Unitarian Universalists have been talking about it for, at least 20 years, and probably for a lot longer than that. Now, some of you want to know, well, what's the preacher going to say? And you go home and maybe somebody says, well, you know, what did the minister talk about today? You know, what was the message? What was the message? Can you maybe summarize that in just a couple of words? And the message is really very simple. Very simple. If you want environmental peace, work for environmental justice. You want environmental peace, work for environmental justice. It's as simple as that. You know, sometimes we try to keep our various concerns in different silos. You know, there's a term that we use sometimes. You know, we talk about racial justice, and that's over here, and then gender justice, that's here, and disability rights, well, maybe that's over in the corner, and then we've got to jump all the way over, and then we talk about this thing called the environment. But the reality, the truth of the matter, especially who recognize this here in UU congregations, the truth of the matter is It's all together. Okay? Now, all of these pieces are part of the same mosaic. We now have a revised version of Article 2 for our Unitarian Universalist bylaws. It's the national level. Article 2 is our statement of purpose. You know, who are we? What do we believe? What are we trying to do? 7 values. One of them acknowledges the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. You're familiar with that? Okay. That's supposed to be our environmental statement. But the reality is that we have 6 other principles that are also important. They're equally important. And everything is connected. We have a very ecological view. Everything is connected. Everything is part of the same mosaic. And everything, all of our values, all of our principles, equally important. And that's the message. It's all part of the same picture. And everything is centered on the power of love. That's what really matters. We're concerned about the dignity of every person, of every being. We're concerned about democracy in the world. We're especially concerned about the problems of racism and other forms of oppression. And everything goes together in one package. Now, I am a Unitarian Universalist climate change minister. Okay, there are such people in the world. And I've been doing environmental justice work now with the UUs for, at least 35 years. 1989, I was at the General Assembly in New Haven, and we started to put the Green Sanctuary program together. A few years after that, I worked with Reverend Marjorie Bowens Wheatley, who was the minister over in Tampa for a while. We introduced the first major statement about environmental justice and why that is so important for Unitarian Universalists. And we did some other things too. Lots and lots of community projects, people of different races, different backgrounds. We're concerned about disability rights, gender justice, a variety of issues. In 2011, the National Sierra Club gave me an award because of my ministry. And after that, I decided I wanted to be, I was up in Massachusetts back in those days. I decided I wanted to be on the front lines, where I thought maybe I could do some good. Where do you think I moved to? Florida. All of you folks, and I think you know it, all of you folks are on the front lines for the impact of climate change. Each summer is hotter than the previous summer. The sea level continues to rise. And if Tampa Bay, heaven help us, if Tampa Bay takes a direct hit from a Category 3 or a 4, or heaven help us, a Category 5 hurricane, things will be rather unpleasant. It will be interesting to see if this building is still standing. Some of you may wonder if your homes will still be standing. Might happen this year, might happen 5 years from now. We are in one of the most vulnerable places on planet Earth for the impact of climate change and sea level rise. And that's the reality that we live with. So what are we going to do about it as Unitarian Universalists? And how are we going to work in concert with other people who are also concerned? Well, I work with different congregations in the state of Florida, all the way from Pasco County down to Key West. And we work on a variety of projects that emphasize social justice and the environment. Mutual aid is a very important theme. Spiritual activities are particularly important as we pay attention to the changing seasons. It's one of the things that Lisa will talk about today. One of the things that happens in many UU congregations is the annual hurricane service. And what I You realize, you all know, hurricane season starts June 1st, it goes to November 30th. So as Unitarian Universalists, we acknowledge that we're moving into a difficult season. We promise to help each other, members of the congregation, but also people in the larger community. We promise to be helpful not just to our neighbors who happen to be human. We're concerned about all of our neighbors and the quality of our environment. And we make the necessary preparations. We try to prepare for a difficult season. And this kind of activity, this spiritual activity, has been happening in this part of the world for a long, long time. When we talk about Florida and the Caribbean. And Lisa will talk about some of the Taino traditions. We use a conch shell trumpet. Reverend Ben helped us with that a few minutes ago. We use the conch shell trumpet, well, to get people woke. Can I use that term? Okay, we get people woke. Okay, I'll use that term. We're among friends. It's like a shofar. Okay. Wake up, people. Come on, wake up. See the present reality. Try to understand what is happening in your surroundings. Not 5 years from now or 30 years from now, but think about the present moment. And that's what we try to do with hurricane season in a hurricane service. It's a spiritual activity. In our spiritual events throughout the year, we're concerned about liberation, concerned about equity, diversity, inclusion, care for each other, care for the environment. And these are some of the spiritual values that we celebrate. Now, I do several things in the area, and you're invited to join us in some of these activities. The first activity I mentioned is, and Lisa can tell us more about this, August 8th, is that correct? Thursday, August 8th. We have a community dinner at the Enoch Davis Center. That's down in South St. Pete, not too far from here. Sponsored by the Sustainable Urban Agriculture Coalition, SUAC. Now, SUAC is a group of people, different races, different age groups, different abilities. We join together to help each other in community gardening, and we're active in community gardening throughout the year. And there are at least 20 to 30 community gardens just in St. Petersburg. Nobody knows the complete number. Maybe Lisa knows. 20 to 30, those probably somewhere in that range. So we learned how to grow Caribbean crops. We've experimented with cassava, callaloo, Scotch bonnet peppers. You have to watch it with those. Some other things too, because the environment's changing. We have to learn how to adjust to this new reality. That's August 8th, 5:30, Enoch Davis. Dinner, I'll prepare part of the dinner, so despite that, you're invited, you can come, okay. August 9th, Friday, 1 o'clock. We have a cluster meeting. We use Zoom a lot. The cluster includes all the UU, or many of the UU congregations in this area. We meet once a month, second Friday, and we help each other. This is a mutual aid exercise. So we talk to people in Odessa, Tarpon Springs, and other places, especially as we move into hurricane season. If there's going to be a mass evacuation, how do we provide assistance? If a building is damaged by a hurricane, how do we provide help? How do we provide food assistance if that's needed in a community? What are the other things that we can do just to be of help to each other? And that's part of what we talk about at these cluster meetings. So you're invited Friday, August 9th. Everybody in this room is invited. The meeting's held by Zoom. And then finally, in this Trinity, the big event, the really big event, September 28th, 29th, Saturday, Sunday, the National Unitarian Universalist Association has its Climate Change Revival. It's on Zoom. This is 2 days of activities, all kinds of activities, musical activities, storytelling, all kinds of things, focused on how we deal with this reality called climate change. Our national president, President Betancourt, will be with us, and other speakers from the UUA. And you're all invited. You all have the opportunity to participate. So these are 3 events that are coming up very quickly, and I hope that this congregation will be involved. What else needs to be said? Well, there's a lot of things that need to be said, but I think as Unitarian Universalists think about what we bring to the table, give some special attention to these themes of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Talk about justice. Talk about ways in which we can look out for everybody, and I suppose all creatures. That's an important part of the emergency services discussion, the environmental protection discussion. Sometimes this message about diversity, equity, and inclusion, access for people with disabilities, concern about others. For some reason, these issues are sometimes not included in climate change discussion. Be present when you're needed, down at City Hall. Go up to Tallahassee, perhaps. Clearwater. Be in the places where you're needed, when you're needed, especially in the next 90 days or so. At this year's General Assembly, we had a statement called World on Fire, Humanitarian Work and Climate Change. We outlined some of these humanitarian needs that UUs need to address. We talked about houseless people, the homeless. These are the folks who lack adequate shelter during extreme weather, and they need some of our special attention. We talked about farm workers and construction workers and other people in high-risk jobs who need to be protected from extreme heat. We talked about disability rights. Many people are simply abandoned or left behind. And we talked about some other human rights concerns also. So this is part of what's happening among the Unitarian Universalists these days. We're connecting with indigenous people and other groups. But I'm going to leave that good discussion to our friend Lisa Pineda. Thank you.
to start with the land acknowledgement. As we welcome the spring at this site, we would like to acknowledge that the indigenous people did inhabit this land before us, and there is a painful history that also accompanies this land. We wish to acknowledge and honor the indigenous communities who lived and took stewardship on this land prior to us. We recognize that this city was built on the indigenous homelands and resources of the Seminole, Miccosukee, and Tocobaga people, as well as their ancestors going back over 10,000 years. We acknowledge the painful history of genocide and forced removal from their territory as we honor and respect the many diverse indigenous people still on this land today. I call on all in attendance to commit to continuing to learn how we can be better stewards of the land on which we stand. We have a small song to play for the calling song from the Taino. Taigwe. Does anyone remember from the earlier presentation with the youth what Tai means? Good. Gwe means sun. So I'm literally saying good sun or good morning. So you can repeat Taigwe. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm very honored. I am not a priestess. I am a student of the indigenous cultures of the Taino. I am descended from the Taino, and I'm here as an educator. I wanted to share with you a little bit about the people of the Taino Nation, or the Arawakan Nation, and this comes from the Caribbean Network. This season represents a special stage in the ceremonial cycles of the semis, which I'm actually wearing one, and so are my children. Semis, as seen from the perspective of the Kane spiritual circle. The people of the Taino and Arawakan Nation believe that Yakahu, the male energy, spirit, and life, has a life cycle just like any other living entity. The Taino believe that Yukahu is born of this earth in Water Mother Atabe at the spring equinox. And actually, we had a spring equinox ceremony at the temple down on the Pinellas Mound, where we also did the Yukahu ceremony. He rises to full maturity and strength at the summer solstice, which we just passed, and then declines during the stormy, hurricane-blown weeks at the end of the summer season to finally die at the autumnal or fall equinox. The autumnal equinox represents the moment when our beloved life spirit, the Yukahu, begins his journey to the realm of the dead. He descends to the watery underworld at the center of Atabe's womb called Koabe, a place that can be accessed spiritually through sacred caves. So when you actually travel to the Caribbean, there are many caves that have ancient carvings and paintings that you can see some of the story painted. At winter solstice, this powerful male spirit overcomes the rigors of death and hardship that characterize the hurricane-driven late summer and fall. There he awaits rebirth during the dry winter months, a period of time which, in the Caribbean, hold very little rainfall and constrain the ability for planting and life to regenerate. I wanted to kind of cover that because I think a lot of times here in the United States, the hurricane season is seen as something to be feared. That's actually not what the Taino taught. The Taino taught that Huracan, which was a semi or a god, which they venerated and worshipped as a spirit of change and to remove what is not needed. When you think about the way the Taino lived, they didn't have solid structures like we think of today. So when the hurricanes blew through, they also recognized they were coming. They saw the signs. They went to the caves. They gathered together as families. They had food, and they waited for it to pass by. And when they came out, all of the old branches from the trees were knocked down that were no longer of any good. So they literally saw it as a way to prune their trees. It was definitely a powerful force, but everything that they built was with the intent to survive a hurricane. This was part of their culture. And they, again, it was a god that was to be venerated, not to be feared. It was also a god of rebirth. So if you think about the winter season being so dry, the hurricane season also brought rain, which is what actually brought life. So it was more a cyclical thinking. If you look at the actual drawings and the carvings of Huracan, it actually showed the shape that we recognize today of the hurricane. This was long before there was any kind of satellite imagery. So it's pretty interesting how they were able to surmise that. But when thousands of years go by and you live in this culture, this becomes part of your stories. As many of you probably know, stories in the past that were religion, they were also science. There was not a distinguishing between science and religion. Sir Isaac Newton was a very well-known scientist who was also extremely religious man. This was similar with the Taínos. They didn't separate science and religion. Let me pull up another thing here. We have actually some images. We couldn't get it to connect to the TV, but feel free. I hope that you're going to go home and be a little curious and look some of these up. And I'll give you some resources later that you can actually look up at home. Let's see. There's this area, a lot of people, especially with, I'm not going to get political, but I am going to get political. When we talk about the redevelopment of this area, I'm kind of one of those people that, kind of can't hold my fingertips sometimes and say, like, on the bones of indigenous people. That's kind of me, if you see that on social media. So in 1830, there was something called the Indian Removal Act. And many people don't realize that Egmont Key was kind of like our little Auschwitz, where people were removed forcibly from the land here, brought to Egmont Key before they were shipped off to the far west. So many people died on that land. So we consider it sacred and should be protected. And there's many pictures and stories of what happened here to develop this city, where there were sacred mounds that were decimated and used to pave roads, for example. There was a recent article about a person wanting to put in a circular driveway, and they found bones, and they feel that the proper way to handle this is to bring somebody in and to remove the bone and bury it somewhere else. That's a desecration in our estimation, because that was a religious burial. So that's as much as I'm going to say about that. But I wanted to also talk about the Taino language. Hurricane, or Huracan, was actually derived from the words from the Taino. They never had heard of a hurricane before coming in 1492, and the indigenous were teaching the colonizers about the different things that happened that were different in the Caribbean. But many people might recognize some other words. I'll pull these up for you. Has anyone heard of barbecue? Barbacoa was a Taino word. It didn't exist before contact with the colonizers. Caimans, that is also a Taino word. Canoe, or canoa, also Taino. Cassava, K, guava, hammock, hurricane, hutui, iguana, macana, maize, manatee, mangrove, maroon, potato, savanna, tobacco, and the list goes on and on. There's over 500 words that have been integrated into our English language that are actually of Taino origin. So next time someone says the Taino language is dead, you can correct them. It's very much alive. There's a big movement right now to actually to rejuvenate the Taino language. The Taino in Puerto Rico have been taking the lead on reforming the nation to get national and international recognition. There is one problem with that. Puerto Rico is actually a territory. Puerto Rico has all the responsibilities of a state and none of the privileges. So even if the Taino are recognized in Puerto Rico, that is not part of the United States officially and cannot receive any benefits as being an official people that has been removed from their land. The Taino actually were known to be in the United States as well. There's documented evidence that the Taino came with the colonizers to Florida and showed them how to get here through going through the Bahamas and getting to Florida. I was born in Fort Myers and was raised with the Miccosukee, and they also have stories of the Calusa being descended from the Arawakan Taino. When we talk about hurricane preparation, have you heard of permaculture? Raise your hand if you've heard of it. I love this group. Permaculture, if you haven't heard of it, perma, of course, is from the word permanent. Culture is like the culture. A lot of people, or a way of living. A lot of people only know the agriculture portion, which of course, as a former president of Sustainable Urban Agriculture Coalition, I love agriculture, but permaculture is much broader than just growing food. It's about building a community of love and mutual respect. And if you've heard of Mollison, who's considered the father of permaculture, he actually recognizes that he based his findings on studying indigenous peoples, one of the primary ones being the Taino. The Taino prepared for hurricanes by growing foods that were resistant to high winds. They grew foods that, like yucca and cassava and maize, and they grew with the seasons. We need to really start thinking about how we eat, what foods we choose, what we grow locally, and what we spend our money on, to be frank. If we're constantly putting money into buying things like apples, which have to be shipped in and are not from this area, how resilient really are we? Don't get me wrong, the Taino were known to be ocean-going peoples, and they did a lot of trade, but they didn't do it during hurricane season. So trying to think about how we can live more sustainably and in care of each other is kind of looking back to how the indigenous peoples of the Caribbean lived during hurricane season. I mentioned how they went into caves. It is thought that maybe a lot of the drawings that they did were actually during the storms when they were hiding out. Think about that, having a safe place to go with your neighbors, that you knew you were safe, and you knew you just had to weather the storm, and you could be painting together and having a great time. A lot of the things, I don't know how many people here might be vegan or vegetarian, but most of the indigenous foods were things that they could just find around their area. They didn't have to truck them in anywhere. So fish was a staple. If you've heard from permaculture, something called hugelkultur, it's called, in German, hugel is a mound, culture is growing, so growing in mounds. They actually came from the Taino, which is called conuco. So it wasn't even known in Europe before. So it couldn't be German because it was actually originally in the Caribbean, where they witnessed people growing with their food waste. So they would make mounds, primarily with fish bones and different emulsions, and this waste they would put into a mound and then grow right into that mound. So when you read hugelkultur, just remember the original is conuco. That's the end of my presentation since the music is ending, but I wanted to finish with one more thing. There were still places that you can learn about the Taino, and I encourage you to do so. The Taino Museum in Haiti is doing a great job of, actually much of the information that I have here, it was from that museum. Please look it up. A lot of people don't know that there's an amazing Taino museum in Haiti. You can actually donate to it from the United States. Our dollars go a long way, so donating to that museum, as well as the one that's in Puerto Rico, can really help out the cause of keeping the indigenous information from the Taino alive. I'd like to also invite you to the Sustainable Urban Agriculture Coalition, which is, like I said, I was the former president. I'm now the Partnership and Education Coordinator for Sustainable Urban Agriculture Coalition, and we have our meetings the first Friday of every month. We make it like a little party, so we have a potluck, and we try to teach about the permaculture principles related to food, and we have guest speakers. It's free to attend, and I hope that you can come. And I'd like to end today by also thanking you again for having me. And a couple of you know, Ben and Bob, that I actually have a history with UU. I started going to Unitarian Universalist Church when I was in high school because a friend invited me, and I had a little falling out with my previous religion, and I always felt very welcome, so thank you so much for having a congregation that is welcoming and that teaches about so many different religions. Thank you so much.
We eat fruit from trees planted before we were born, and we plant seeds that will bear fruit long after we are gone. In the sanctuary, the offering will now be given and received. What's given in love is received with great joy, and we say thank you. And now I want to invite all the new members from the graduating class of this last new members class to come forward, along with the membership team co-chairs back from their trip, Paul and Carrie Showalter. Come on up.
As co-chair of the member team with Carrie, I want to welcome. I want to welcome you to our wonderful UU St. Pete congregation. We're delighted you have made the decision to embrace the principles that guide each one of us and invite us to become our best selves.
All of us are energized by your commitment to our congregation. Each one of you, unique perspective of what it means to be a part of our spiritual community. You challenge us to continue our search for truth and meaning and to be part of the interdependent web where we and value each other.
We invite you to view today as a first step. We seek to continue your journey to become wholeheartedly engaged with the multiple aspects of our community that call to you and serve others. We will reach out to you and ask you to reach out to us individually and collectively.
Many thanks for putting your trust in our congregation. We welcome you with open arms.
Thanks, Carrie. Thanks, Paul. Now, here at UU St. Pete, we have been gathering here or near here for over a century, 1914, seeking a higher purpose and a deeper life. Folks have been seeking a higher purpose and a deeper life than that which they can find alone. So I'm grateful, and we are grateful for each of you today that you've found your way here and that you've decided to make a commitment to this faith community. And we hope that as members of this community, you will allow yourselves to know and allow yourselves to be known, allow yourselves to minister and be ministered to love and to be loved by this congregation. So if you are willing and you have your lines, you do. Please say the affirmation that you've been given. I affirm my commitment to this congregation and the responsibilities that it entails. I enter this community willing to grow, ready to serve. Thank you. For the rest of us, the commitment we're making today is at least as great as those joining us. So members and friends of UU St. Pete, if you are willing to open your hearts and minds to those joining us today, are you willing? Nod if you, yes, wait, are you willing? Okay, good. I don't have it printed in the order of service, so I'll just say our welcome, and if you agree with it, say it after I say it. We, the members and friends of the Unitarian Universalist Church of St. Petersburg, welcome you to this congregation. We pledge to be a supportive community. That respects who you are. And affirms all that you can become. We are glad that you have found us. Found in us a home for your spirit. Thank you, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of St. Petersburg. We have gifts from the membership team, and we're going to take photos too. Ideally, we do one photo. And Steve, will you do your traditional photo-taking duties? You will? Okay, so the best one would be one from this way, and then one he goes behind us. And last minute request for travel music? Is it too late? You're not even at your bench. Thank you, new members. Thank you, membership team. And thank you, Tim. I feel like if I just randomly do anything, it'd be like, Beethoven's Ninth, third movement, he'll do it. Maybe not. But instead, let's rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn. It's number 1017 in the Teal hymnal, Building a New Way.
We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can free our every need. Start with love that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, this world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
I invite you to remain standing for our chalice extinguishing. I forget who's extinguishing the chalice.
Millie Jones.
It's Millie Jones. Thank you, Millie Jones. And the words to our chalice extinguishing are in your order of service online. They're in the text chat. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of courage. These we carry into our hearts and out into the world. You may be seated for the postlude. Please join us for coffee hour in Gilmore Hall and look around you and do you see that person near you? That's someone you've never talked to. You could talk to them now. If you're new here, it's everyone. I'll be in the library, and Lisa and I think her family and Bob are going to be with me, and anyone's welcome to come to the library for conversation and fellowship. So our worship is over. The service is actually just beginning, so we hope this time together will help you through your week and will help you remember you are not alone. Blessings.